Part 1. The air inside the grand chamber of the Galactic Council was cool and still, humming faintly with the low thrum of climate regulators and the soft glow of floating data orbs. Delegates from a dozen starfaring species sat in tiered arcs around a circular table made of polished moonstone from Virel 9's southern craters. At the center stood Ethan Cole, human diplomat, his dark suit slightly rumpled from 3 days of back-to-back talks. Beside him, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant stood with her hands clasped behind her back, eyes scanning the room like a hawk watching a field. Ethan cleared his throat and spoke again, his voice calm but firm. Earth has defended the Helios corridor for 2 full cycles now. We've lost ships, lives, and resources holding that line against mirror raiders, while your fleets were still debating jurisdiction. He paused, letting the words sink in. And yet your proposed terms treat us like a minor colony, not a partner. A ripple of murmurs passed through the chamber. The Cathar delegate Vorak leaned forward on his thick-scaled forearms. His yellow eyes narrowed. You misunderstand, human. The Council appreciates your enthusiasm. But enthusiasm does not equal strategic value. Your species has only been spacefaring for 3 centuries. We have governed galactic peace for 10,000 years. Lisa didn't flinch, but her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She remembered the battle at Helios Station. How human frigates had formed a shield wall around a Luminae science vessel. Taking fire meant for beings who now sat in judgment, sipping luminescent tea from crystal cups. Ethan kept his tone even. Experience matters, yes. But so does action. We didn't ask for a seat at this table out of pride. We earned it by standing when others stepped back. Vorak let out a dry hiss that passed for laughter among his kind. Earned? You held a narrow corridor for a few months. The Mer withdrew because their breeding cycles shifted, not because of your guns. Do not confuse coincidence with courage. From the far side of the table, Zayla of the Luminae shifted her crystalline form. Light refracted through her translucent limbs, casting prisms on the walls. Vorak, she said, her voice like wind through glass chimes. The human fleet did intercept 3 Mer hive carriers before they reached the inner colonies. That is documented. Vorak waved a clawed hand dismissively. They were lucky. One lucky skirmish does not make a galactic power. Ethan felt the weight of every slight, every condescending glance. He had come here hoping for fairness, for recognition. Instead, he found arrogance wrapped in protocol. He glanced at Lisa. She gave the tiniest nod, almost invisible, but it said everything. They had been warned. Earth Command had prepared for this. Just then, a small pulse vibrated in Ethan's inner earpiece. A private channel. He listened for 3 seconds, his expression unchanged. Then he straightened his tie, took a slow breath, and turned to the Council. Thank you for your time, he said simply. Vorak blinked. That is all? You have no counter-proposal? Ethan shook his head. Not today. He turned to Lisa. Let's go. Without another word, the 2 humans walked out of the chamber. Their footsteps echoed against the smooth stone floor. The only sound in a room suddenly too quiet. The delegates stared after them. Some confused, others amused, a few uneasy. Outside, the corridor was empty except for a pair of Cathar guards who stepped aside without comment. As the heavy doors sealed behind them, Lisa finally spoke. They really think we're just here to fetch coffee and sign papers. Ethan smiled faintly. They see what they want to see. A young species, loud, emotional, disorganized. They don't understand that we choose our battles. Back at the human delegation suite, a modest set of rooms tucked into the lower levels of the Council spire, Ethan opened a secure comms line. Earth Command's emblem flickered on the screen, then resolved into the face of General Paul Dawson. His expression was grim but expectant. Did they listen? Dawson asked. No, Ethan replied. They doubled down. Called our defense efforts incidental. Dawson nodded slowly. Then it's time. Lisa stepped into view. We're pulling out? Not just pulling out, Dawson said. We're going dark. All diplomatic channels will go silent in 12 hours. Fleet Command has already begun Phase 1 of Aegis. Lisa's eyes widened slightly. They're really activating it? They left us no choice, Dawson said. We offered peace as equals. They offered us a leash. Now they'll learn what silence sounds like. Ethan looked out the window of the suite. Virel 9's twin moons hung low in the violet sky, casting long shadows over the spires of the Council City. Below, alien shuttles zipped between towers, unaware that something fundamental had just shifted. Later that evening, as the human team packed their gear, there was no anger, no shouting. Just quiet efficiency. Data drives were wiped. Encryption keys rotated. Personal effects stowed in standard-issue duffels. No fanfare. No dramatic exit speech. They simply checked out of their rooms, handed their access badges to the front desk, and boarded their shuttle. As the vessel lifted off, Lisa watched the council spire shrink beneath them. "They'll think we ran," she said. "Let them," Ethan replied. "Running implies fear. We're not afraid. We're done explaining ourselves." The shuttle pierced the upper atmosphere and docked with the UNS Resolute, a sleek destroyer-class ship waiting in high orbit. Captain Diaz greeted them with a nod. "All systems green. We're cleared for departure. Set course for Sol," Ethan said. "Aye, sir," Diaz replied. As the Resolute turned its nose toward home, the stars ahead seemed brighter, closer. Behind them, the council moon faded into the black. On Varel 9, news of the human delegation's departure spread slowly at first, then all at once. Some laughed. Others shrugged. Vorak told reporters that humanity had shown their true nature, impulsive and thin-skinned. But Zayla watched the empty human suite on her monitor and felt a strange unease. Humans did not act without reason, and they did not leave quietly unless they had already decided what came next. She sent a private message to her research team. Pull all records on early human space engagements. Cross-reference with ancient Luminae archives. Something about this silence felt familiar, but by then it was too late. The humans were gone, and the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, had stopped paying attention to them. That, as Earth Command knew well, was exactly what they needed. Part 2. News of the human delegation's sudden departure from the Galactic Council spread like a ripple through still water. At first it moved slowly, whispered in diplomatic lounges, mentioned in passing during trade briefings. But within days it became the talk of every spaceport, every newsfeed, every alien household with a comms link. Most species interpreted it the same way. Humans had quit. They had been outmatched, outmaneuvered, and outgrown by the realities of galactic politics. To the Cathar, it was proof of human fragility. To the Mur Collective, it was an opening. To the Luminae, it was a puzzle. On Varel 9, council envoys gathered in the aftermath, not with concern but with relief. Vorak convened a small meeting with his closest advisors. "Let them sulk on their wet little world," he said, tail curling in amusement. "Without our protection, their outer colonies will fall within a cycle. They'll be begging to sign our terms soon enough." No one questioned the assumption. After all, humanity had never shown signs of hidden strength. Their ships were sturdy but outdated. Their weapons relied on brute force, not finesse. Their culture was loud, emotional, chaotic, everything the council valued order over. So when human communication channels went completely silent 2 days after their departure, no alarm bells rang. It was just more proof of their retreat. But on Earth, silence meant something else entirely. In Denver, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Carla Mendez stood in a dimly lit command bunker surrounded by holographic displays. One showed real-time fleet positions. Another tracked energy signatures across the Sol system. A third displayed live feeds from orbital defense platforms. She wore a simple gray jacket, her silver hair pulled back, eyes sharp and steady. Beside her, Dr. Nina Patel adjusted her glasses and pointed to a flickering red line on the main screen. "The readings from the Oort cloud are spiking again. Same pattern as last week." "It's not natural," Carla nodded. "Could it be Mur scouts?" "No," Nina said. "No engine trails. No comms chatter. Just distortion, like space itself is bending." Carla turned to General Paul Dawson, who stood near the back with arms crossed. "Status on Aegis?" "Phase 1 complete," Dawson replied. "All civilian outposts beyond Mars have been evacuated under the guise of maintenance rotations. Military assets are cloaked or relocated. The Resolute and her sister ships are holding position near Jupiter's shadow. And the Council? They've sent 2 formal messages demanding we reaffirm our commitment to galactic cooperation. We haven't replied." "Good," Carla said. "Let them wonder." Meanwhile, across Earth, life went on, but not as usual. In cities from Tokyo to Buenos Aires, people gathered in town squares, not in fear, but in quiet solidarity. Broadcasts played old footage. Firefighters pulling survivors from rubble, doctors working through the night, neighbors sharing food after disasters. The message was clear. Humanity had survived worse than alien scorn. They had rebuilt after wars, plagues, climate collapse. They knew how to endure. Ethan Cole and Lisa Grant arrived back on Earth 3 days after leaving Varel 9. They were debriefed immediately, then given a single day of rest before returning to duty. Now stationed at the Luna Command Hub, they monitored galactic chatter through filtered feeds. Most of it was mocking. The humans folded like paper, read one Cathar news post. Earth's leaders lack spine, wrote a Mir analyst. Only Zayla's report stood out. She had begun publishing cautious essays questioning the Council's assumptions. A species that built cities on a tectonically unstable planet, survived nuclear near annihilation, and reached the stars in under 300 years does not vanish without purpose, she wrote. Few listened. Back in the Sol system, strange things began to happen. A Cathar mining drone near Neptune's orbit suddenly lost power. Its last transmission showed a ripple in space like heat haze over desert sand, before going dark. A Mir scout vessel, sent to investigate human activity near Saturn, vanished without a distress call. Its debris field, discovered weeks later, showed no signs of weapon fire. Instead, the hull was twisted in ways that defied known physics. At first, the Council blamed system malfunctions or rogue asteroids. But when a Lumini science probe sent to study the anomaly returned with corrupted data, and a single phrase etched into its memory core, "We were here first," even Vorak grew uneasy. On Earth, no one celebrated. They watched. They waited. In a hidden lab beneath the Pacific Ocean, engineers fine-tuned the final components of Project Aegis. It wasn't a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It was a shield. A network of quantum field emitters, neural AI sentinels, and phased stealth matrices that didn't just hide ships, but bent perception itself. Developed over 40 years using fragments of ancient tech found in Antarctic ice and lunar caves, Aegis turned human space into a ghost zone. To outside sensors, Sol was empty, quiet, harmless. But inside, it was alive. Lisa stood on the observation deck of the Horizon's Reach Station, orbiting just beyond the moon. Below her, Earth turned slowly, blue and white and green. She thought of the Council chamber, of Vorak's smug certainty. He thought humans were small. He didn't know they had spent centuries learning to hide in plain sight. Ethan joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "They're getting nervous," he said, handing her one. "Good," Lisa replied. "Let them feel what it's like to be ignored." Down on the surface, children played in parks. Farmers harvested crops, scientists ran simulations. None of them knew the full scope of Aegis, but all of them knew this. Earth was theirs to protect, not to surrender. Then came the first real test, a Mir warship. Larger than any before, crossed into the outer edge of the Sol system. It didn't send a hail. It didn't ask permission. It simply powered up its plasma cannons and aimed for Mars, an easy target, they thought, now that humans had retreated. What they didn't know was that Mars was empty. The colony had been evacuated weeks ago. The domes were dark, the landing pads cold. As the Mir ship passed Jupiter's orbit, something changed. Its sensors flickered. Navigation failed. Internal comms filled with static. Then for 3 seconds, the crew saw something impossible. Stars moving backward, time folding in on itself. Then nothing. The ship never reached Mars. Days later, wreckage began drifting into neutral space near the asteroid belt. Twisted metal. Frozen bodies. No blast marks. No fire, just broken. When the Council recovered a data log, all it contained was a single image. Earth, as seen from deep space, with one word beneath it. Remember. Vorak called an emergency session. For the first time, his voice lacked its usual confidence. "This is not human technology," he insisted. "It cannot be." But Zayla stood and faced him. "Then whose is it?" she asked. "Because someone is defending Sol, and it isn't us." Silence filled the chamber. Back on Earth, Carla Mendez received the report. She didn't smile. She simply said, "Phase 2 begins tonight." And across the Sol system, hidden emitters hummed to life, weaving a web of silence so deep, even the stars seemed to hold their breath. Part 3. Weeks passed and the silence from Earth grew heavier. It wasn't just quiet, it was complete. No broadcasts, no trade requests, no distress calls. Even the old emergency beacons near the asteroid belt had gone dark. To the rest of the galaxy, Sol had become a ghost system, drifting alone in the void. Most assumed humanity had locked itself away in shame or fear. But those who paid close attention began to notice something strange. The silence wasn't empty. It was watching. On Varel 9, tension simmered in the council chambers. Vorak tried to maintain control, insisting the Mer ship's destruction was a fluke, an unknown cosmic event, perhaps a rogue black hole fragment. But fewer believed him each day. The Lumini had stopped attending routine meetings. The Mer Collective recalled half their outer fleets. Even the Cathar border patrols grew cautious, scanning the dark between stars with new unease. Zayla worked day and night in her private archive chamber, cross-referencing ancient records with recent anomalies. She found fragments, old Lumine texts that spoke of a silent builders race, beings who shaped gravity and time before the first council was ever formed. The descriptions were vague, poetic, almost mythical, but one phrase kept appearing. They walked among stars but left no footprints. She sent a coded query to her research team on Lumina Prime. Compare genetic markers from human DNA samples with pre-council relics. The reply came back in under an hour. Match probability 89.7%. Her crystalline form shimmered with alarm. If humans were descendants of the silent builders, then their retreat wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Meanwhile, deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a bunker lined with humming servers and glowing consoles, President Carla Mendez met with Ethan Cole and Lisa Grant. The room was small, lit only by soft blue panels. No windows, no distractions. We can't stay hidden forever, Ethan said, leaning forward. Sooner or later they'll send a full armada. Carla nodded. We know. That's why we're not just hiding. We're preparing. She tapped a command into the table. A hologram rose between them, showing the entire Sol system dotted with faint pulses of light. Project Aegis isn't just about stealth. It's about control. Every satellite, every drone, every ship beyond Luna is now part of a single neural network. It sees everything, reacts instantly, and it learns. Lisa studied the map. The Mer ship. It wasn't destroyed by weapons, was it? No, Carla said. It was unraveled, gently, like pulling a thread from a sweater. Aegis detected hostile intent, analyzed the ship's structure, and induced a localized space-time shear. The crew never felt a thing. Ethan exhaled slowly. They'll think it's magic. Good, Carla said. Let them fear what they don't understand. She turned to Dr. Nina Patel, who had just entered the room carrying a data slate. Nina, update them. Nina adjusted her glasses. We've confirmed it. The energy patterns from the Oort cloud match the resonance frequencies found in those ancient artifacts we recovered near Titan. They're not just tools, they're keys. And humanity. We're the only species whose biology syncs with them. Lisa frowned. What does that mean? It means we didn't just evolve on Earth, Nina said quietly. We were placed here, or returned here. Either way, this system was built for us or by us. A heavy silence settled over the room. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't the galaxy's youngest child. They might be its oldest heir. Back in orbit, aboard the Horizon's Reach station, engineers ran final diagnostics on the Aegis core. It pulsed with a soft golden light, calm, steady, alive. The AI at its heart had no name, but its logic was clear. Protect Earth, preserve peace. But never appear weak. On the surface, life continued as if nothing had changed. Children went to school. Markets bustled. Farmers planted new crops. But in every home, in every town, there was a quiet understanding. They were not alone, and they were not helpless. Then came the second test. A Cathar mining fleet, desperate to prove their dominance, entered the Kuiper Belt without warning. Their mission? Seize ice deposits near Pluto and declare them Cathar territory. They broadcast their arrival loudly, as if daring Earth to respond. They found nothing. No ships, no signals. Just cold, empty space. But as they deployed drills, their equipment began to fail. Not break, fail. Tools refused to activate. Navigation systems showed impossible coordinates. One miner swore he saw his own reflection blink out of sync. Within hours, the entire fleet powered down, stranded in the dark. When rescue ships arrived days later, they found the crews unharmed, but shaken. None could explain what happened. All they remembered was a feeling, like being watched by something ancient and patient. Vorak received the report in private. For the first time, doubt crept into his voice. "What are they doing?" he muttered to himself. Zayla, watching from the shadows of the chamber, whispered the truth no one else dared say. "They're showing us what happens when you ignore a sleeping giant." On Earth, Carla stood on a hill outside Denver at dawn. The sky was pink and gold. Birds sang in the trees. She thought of her granddaughter playing in the yard below, unaware of the invisible shield wrapped around their world. Ethan joined her, hands in his pockets. "They'll come back," he said, "with more ships, more anger." "Let them," Carla replied. "Every time they push, we show them a little more. Not to scare them, to teach them." Lisa appeared beside them holding a tablet. "General Dawson just confirmed it. All defense grids are synchronized. Aegis is ready for Phase 3. Carla nodded. "Then it's time." That night, across the Sol system, thousands of hidden emitters activated in perfect harmony. Not to attack, not to hide, but to speak. Every alien probe, every listening post, every ship near human space received the same message. Not in words, in memory. They saw Earth during the Great Fires. They saw humans sharing water in the dust storms. They saw doctors working in ruined hospitals, soldiers laying down arms to carry children to safety. And over it all, a single line, translated into every known language. "We know how to lose everything. Do you?" The message lasted only 10 seconds. Then silence returned. But this time it carried weight. On Varel 9, Zayla watched the playback 3 times. Tears, real liquid tears, formed in her light-refracting eyes. She had studied war, diplomacy, power, but she had never seen a species choose mercy after being wronged. Vorak, for once, had no reply. And in the dark between stars, humanity waited, not for war, but for wisdom. Part 4. Panic spread through the Galactic Council like a virus no one knew how to cure. The message from Earth had not been a threat, it had been a mirror. And in its reflection, every species saw something they did not like. The Cathar, proud and rigid, saw their arrogance. The Mer, driven by instinct and expansion, saw their hunger. The Lumini, calm and wise, saw their blindness. No one spoke of it openly, but everyone felt it. Humanity had not attacked. They had simply shown what they were made of, and it was more than anyone expected. Vorak tried to hold the council together. He called emergency sessions, demanded loyalty, accused Zayla of spreading fear, but his voice lacked its old fire. Even his own aides avoided his gaze. The truth was sinking in. They had made a terrible mistake. They had treated humans like children, and now those children had grown up in the dark, building something no one understood. Then came the final blow. A Mer warfleet, 20 hive carriers, each the size of a small moon, launched from the outer rim without council approval. Their goal was clear: take Mars by force, plant their spore seeds, and claim Sol as Mer territory. They believed Earth's silence meant weakness. They were wrong. As the fleet crossed Jupiter's orbit, every ship vanished from every sensor grid in the galaxy. Not destroyed, not jammed, gone. One moment they were there, engines blazing, weapons charged. The next, nothing, not even debris. Hours later, wreckage began to drift into neutral space near the asteroid belt. Not torn apart by lasers or missiles, not melted by plasma, just folded, twisted into impossible shapes as if space itself had crumpled around them like paper. No survivors, no signals, just silence. This time even Vorak could not explain it away. Zayla stood before the full council, her crystalline form glowing with urgency. "We must stop," she said, her voice clear and sharp. "Earth is not our enemy. They are showing restraint. If they wanted war, we would already be ash." A Mer delegate hissed from the shadows. "They killed our fleet." "No," Zayla replied. "You sent your fleet into their home without warning. What would you do if someone flew into your nursery with weapons drawn?" The chamber fell quiet. No one answered. Back on Earth, there was no celebration, no victory speeches. In the Luna Command Hub, Lisa Grant watched the sensor logs of the Mer fleet's final moments. Her face was calm, but her hands were clenched. "They never even saw it coming," she said softly. Ethan stood beside her. "They chose violence. We chose defense. There's a difference." Down on the surface, Dr. Nina Patel worked with Lumini data fragments that had just arrived through a back channel Zayla had opened. The ancient texts were clearer now. They spoke of a race that walked among stars not to conquer but to protect. They built systems that healed, not harmed. They vanished not because they were defeated but because they believed others would learn to do the same. They thought we forgot, Nina whispered, reading the translation. But we remembered. President Carla Mendez received a private message from General Dawson. All outer grids stable. No new threats detected. But they're scared now. Really scared. Good, Carla said. Fear is the first step toward respect. She walked to the window of her office. Night had fallen over Denver. Streetlights glowed. Families gathered in homes. The world looked peaceful, normal. But beneath that calm was a strength forged in fire, loss, and hard-won wisdom. On Varel 9, Zayla made a decision. She accessed the deepest vault of Lumini history, the record sealed for 10,000 years. There she found it, a star map with Sol at its center. Around it, symbols matched human DNA sequences. Notes described a guardian cycle, where the silent builders would sleep until the galaxy forgot balance and tipped toward greed. She sent the file directly to Earth, encrypted, untraceable, a gift, an apology. When Nina received it, she called Carla immediately. It's real, she said, voice trembling. We're not just descendants. We're the last line, the ones who stay behind when others rush ahead. Carla closed her eyes. Then we have to show them the way back. The next day, something unexpected happened. A small Cathar science vessel, flying under a white peace flag, approached the edge of the Sol system. It sent no weapons, no demands, just a simple message. We wish to talk. Aegis scanned the ship, verified its intent. Then for the first time in months, a human voice replied, Identify yourself. The Cathar captain, young and nervous, gave his name and mission. We come not as enemies. We come to understand. Lisa, monitoring from orbit, looked at Ethan. Do we let them in? Ethan thought of the council chamber, of Vorak's sneer, of the Mer ships folding into nothing. Then he thought of the children playing in Denver's parks. Let them see, he said. The Cathar ship was guided through hidden corridors of safe space, past fields of silent drones and shimmering energy nets. When it reached Mars orbit, it found not a military base, but a garden. Greenhouses floated in the red sky, growing food for future colonies. Robots tended soil. No guns, no soldiers. Just life. The Cathar captain wept. When he returned to Varel 9, he told everyone what he saw. Not a fortress. Not a weapon. A home. Vorak tried to silence him. But the story spread. And with it, doubt turned to shame. Zayla stood before the council one last time. We called them primitive, she said. But they have something we lost long ago. They remember what peace costs and they pay it daily. That night the council voted. Not on war. Not on control. But on humility. They would send a new delegation. Not to demand. Not to judge. But to ask, and for the first time in centuries the galaxy prepared to listen. Tour 5. The delegation arrived at the edge of the Sol system under a sky full of stars and no weapons. 3 ships, 1 Cathar, 1 Lumini, 1 Mer, flew in perfect formation, their hulls marked with the white sigil of truce. No demands, no ultimatums, just a simple request. We wish to speak with Earth. Aegis scanned them slowly, reading every circuit, every heartbeat, every thought pattern. It found no deception, only uncertainty and something new, respect. The network hummed softly and opened a path. The ships were guided through quiet lanes of space, past silent satellites and drifting gardens, until they reached the orbital station Horizon's reach. Ethan Cole and Lisa Grant waited in the main airlock bay. They wore simple uniforms, no medals, no armor, just humans standing on their own ground. The bay doors hissed open, and the alien delegates stepped through one by one. Vorak came last. His scales were dull, his posture less proud than before. He did not speak at first. He only looked around, at the clean corridors, the calm crew, the view of Earth through the observation window, blue and whole and alive. Zayla stepped forward. We come to listen, she said. Ethan nodded. Then let's talk. They met in a round room with no raised seats, no head of table. Equal ground, equal light. For hours they spoke, not about treaties or borders, but about fear. About mistakes. About what it means to share a galaxy without owning it. The Mer delegate, a young hive mind liaison named Krell, admitted their fleet had acted out of hunger, not hate. The Cathar elder confessed they had seen humanity's youth as weakness, not potential. And Vorak, after a long silence, said the hardest words of his life. "We misjudged you," he said, voice low. "Not your strength, but your patience." Lisa looked at him, then at Earth through the window. "We didn't leave because we were weak. We left because you weren't ready to listen." No one argued. No one defended the past. They simply sat with the truth. Later, President Carla Mendez joined them via secure link. Her face appeared on a soft screen, calm and steady. She did not gloat. She did not scold. She offered something rarer, understanding. "We've all made mistakes," she said. "What matters is what we build after." A new treaty began to form, not on paper, but in trust. Earth would take a permanent seat on the Galactic Council, not as a junior member, but as an equal. Human scientists would work with Lumini scholars to study the ancient builder archives. Cathar engineers would help rebuild the outer defense grids, not to control, but to protect. And the Mer would send observers, not soldiers, to learn how humans grew food in dead soil and hope in hard times. Dr. Nina Patel stood beside Zayla in the station's research wing, showing her the resonance patterns from the Titan artifacts. "This isn't just our history," Nina said. "It's yours too. We all came from the same silence." Zayla touched the screen gently. "Then perhaps we can return to it together." As the talks continued, something shifted in the air, not just in the room, but across the galaxy. News spread not of war, but of wonder. Children on distant worlds drew pictures of Earth. Poets wrote verses about human gardens in red dust. Merchants began trading not just goods, but stories. When the delegation prepared to leave, Vorak turned to Ethan one last time. "Will you forgive us?" Ethan thought of the battles, the slights, the years of being called primitive. Then he thought of his niece who had sent him a drawing of an alien and a human holding hands. "Forgiveness isn't the point," he said. "Moving forward is." The ships departed as quietly as they came. But this time they carried more than data. They carried change. Back on Earth, Lisa stood on the observation deck of Horizon's Reach, watching the stars. Ethan joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "They'll think twice next time," she said. "Not because we scared them," Ethan replied. "Because we showed them another way." Down below in Denver, Carla walked through a park at sunset. Children laughed. Trees swayed. The world felt light again, not because the danger was gone, but because they had faced it without losing themselves. In the weeks that followed, the first joint human Lumini research station launched toward the Oort cloud. Cathar engineers helped install clean fusion cores on Martian greenhouses. Mer botanists exchanged seed samples with Earth farmers. The galaxy did not become perfect overnight, but it became possible, and in the quiet moments, when the comms were still and the stars burned steady, humanity remembered why they had chosen peace, not because they had to, but because they could afford to. They had lost everything once, and from that loss they built something worth protecting. Now the galaxy would learn to do the same.